Welcome. Today is Thursday, March 13th, 2025. It's 3 p.m. We are in the council chambers of Greater Madawaska. This is a public meeting held under Section 34 of the Planning Act. It is declared open. The applications on the public meeting agenda today is for public consultation purposes only and will be addressed at future council meetings. At this time, I will ask staff to please confirm that the required notice was given to the subject applications in acceptance with the requirements of the Planning Act.
Thank you. I can confirm that the required notices for both application on the agenda today were given in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act.
Thank you. All those present at the public meeting will have their opportunity to speak in favor or in opposition of the application. Any and all comments and information submitted, whether orally or in writing, including identifying information, becomes part of the public record and could be made publicly available at any point, including on the Township's website and other electronic forms of publications in accordance with the Planning Act requirements. Any person wishing to receive notice of the decision regarding the application being considered must send an email request to the Township office immediately following this meeting, and in all cases must be received prior to the date of the decision of council on the matter. Pursuant to the provisions of the Planning Act, the rights and limitations of the appeal of the Ontario Land Tribunal with respect to the decision of council on the application are as follows. If a person or public body would otherwise have the ability to appeal the decision of the Township of Greater Madawaska on the Ontario Land Tribunal, but the person or public does not make an oral submission at the public meeting or a written submission to the Township of Greater Madawaska before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision. If a person or public body does not make an oral submission at the public meeting or a written submission at the Township of Greater Madawaska before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body may not be added to the party to the hearing of the appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there is reasonable grounds to do so. Notwithstanding the above, Section 34, bracket 19 of the Planning Act defines the parties that are eligible to appeal the decision of the Ontario Land Tribunal. At this time, I will ask staff to please describe the purpose and effect of the zoning bylaw amendment related to file Zulu Bravo 2506.1, submitted by Ann Gannon on behalf of Susan Carty, and summarize any written comments received. Kristen, please take over.
Thank you. So this application refers to the subject lands known as 00 Fraser Road, which are located in part of Lot 25, Concession 2, and are known as Part 1 to 4 on Registered Plan 20830. The purpose and effect of the proposed zoning amendment is to rezone the subject lands from rural and environmental protection to limited service residential and environmental protection to reflect the zoning of the lands being added to, as this zoning bylaw amendment application is a condition of the approval of a consent application having county file number 124-23, which is a application for a lot line addition and a lot line adjustment. We have also to date not received any comments.
Thank you. Does the applicant or the representative wish to speak in regards to the application? There are none seen. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of the amendment? There is none seen. Does anyone wish to speak to the opposition of the amendment? There is none seen. Does anyone, I will ask staff to please describe the we're moving on to the next one then, since we have no comments. I will ask staff to please describe the purpose and effect of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment related to file Zulu Bravo 2506.3 being the Township initiated housekeeping amendment, and summarize any written comments received. Planner, take over, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this application is related to some general amendments to our zoning bylaw. So it's an application that was initiated by the Township. Because it doesn't apply to specific properties, there were no notices sent to individual property owners. We posted the notice for this one on the Township's website, and that meets the Planning Act requirements for notification because it's a general change to the zoning bylaw. There are 5 main sections. I'll just speak very briefly to them for the public record. So in the zoning bylaw, we have provisions for secondary dwelling units, which require a 2-acre parcel, and we have provisions for duplex dwelling units, which are permitted on a 1-acre parcel, and that created a bit of a loophole. So if someone wanted to have a second dwelling and they had a lot less than 2 acres, they could just call it a duplex and put it on a 1-acre lot, and so it created a bit of a loophole. So one of the changes is to remove the duplex dwelling, because really a secondary dwelling unit is a duplex dwelling. So we're recommending that the duplex dwelling unit provisions and use be removed from the residential zones. So if someone wants a second unit, it's a secondary dwelling unit, and they have to follow that section of the zoning bylaw. The second change is related to the definitions for short-term accommodation and bed and breakfast establishment. Very simple in that the definitions in our zoning bylaw are not consistent with the definitions in the short-term accommodation bylaw. They should have been, but they're not. And so both of those definitions are just proposed to be updated in the zoning bylaw so they match with the short-term accommodation bylaw. The third change is related to the definition for lot frontage, and this has come up because of a couple of the subdivisions that are working their way through the process right now with Renfrew County. The zoning bylaw doesn't really contemplate frontage of lots on a private road. It just says frontage of lots on a road, and when you follow that down the rabbit hole of definitions, there's really no recognition of lots that front on a private road. And of course, we have many of those in the township, so we're proposing to modify the definition of lot frontage to recognize that there are lots that front on private roads as well as public roads. There are a couple of site-specific zones in the bylaw that permit row house dwellings and stacked row house dwellings, essentially like townhouse units, but for whatever reason, those are not defined in the zoning bylaw. So proposing to add definitions for those two uses, not to add those uses to any other zones, simply to put definitions. So if somebody wants to establish those uses in a new zone, we have the definitions, and so we're all clear on what is actually permitted in the zone where that's currently allowed. And the fifth thing is seasonal dwelling. So the zoning bylaw does not have a definition for this, and a couple of reasons this has arisen. The building department occasionally issues building permits for seasonal dwellings in the township, usually on waterfront properties, and refers to them as being permitted on a seasonal basis only, but we don't have a definition in the zoning bylaw for a seasonal dwelling. And second, I think as we start to roll out the short-term accommodation licensing process, we're going to see more and more of these. And so again, I noted that the bylaw didn't define a seasonal dwelling, but that's going to come up when we're trying to determine the appropriateness of licensing for short-term accommodation. So I think it makes sense to just add that definition. Again, not proposing that we add that to any zone, it's simply to add a definition for staff's use going forward. So those are basically the 5 policy changes that we're proposing to the zoning bylaw.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of the amendment? None seen. Does anyone wish to speak in opposition of the amendments? None seen. This therefore completes the public meeting process. Council will give careful consideration to the comments received, if any, on this application before it. If there are no further comments, and there are none seen, I declare this public meeting closed. Thank you very much.